Locutus.
Thank you.
Locutus of Borg.
Locutus of Borg.
Press A to play.
Yeah, that pipe that you just jump past that.
We can do this.
Literally the almost final pipe, yep. There it is.
OMFG.
So the spring was not...
The spring was not necessary, actually.
I was totally and completely wrong. My instincts have failed me! It's okay. We can still do this.
Look at you doing this.
This is me doing this. But yeah, like, so I imagine that on average throughout a person's lifetime, you know, they're gonna gravitate towards like maybe one relationship orientation or another. And maybe some people will be very steady and some will not be so steady. You know, and like there's gonna be this variance in terms of how monogamous they are or how like non-monogamous they are. And all, like, I don't know, I feel like science has a lot of these assumptions at times about like how static this is.
Actually, yeah, I think I'm actually reminded of a friend of mine who, when she was younger, pretty much identified as being bi, but at the same time wasn't all that open about it because she felt there was just way more stigma. And then she had her kid and she was single for quite some time. She dated some guys, and at one point she actually, which is funny because she actually had that while we were having a conversation about like orientation and everything. And during the conversation, she was just like, "Wow, this is weird. I never even thought about it like that, but right now, I just completely and totally feel gay. Like I cannot possibly see myself being attracted to any men whatsoever at all." And it's not that she was lying to herself when she was younger, and it's not that those attractions were fake or forced, and she never tried to state anything like that. It's more that as she grew up, she would like gravitate basically towards different orientations in that sense, where all of those were legit. She was, you know, she was bisexual when she was younger, and it just made emotionally more sense for her to basically identify as bi later on. And that was pretty cool because it wasn't like, oh no, I've been deceiving myself, and it wasn't anything like that. It was just more like, yeah, like this is how I feel now.
Yeah.
And that both of those things were as legitimate as the other. I think that was pretty interesting, actually. Yeah.
And it might not be as convenient to study, but that's not what matters, right?
Yeah. Because you, for your numbers, you would like to be able to like, okay, so this group is straight and this group is like, but yeah, it doesn't work like that for everyone. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of people for who that stuff isn't as static, and that makes sense because we aren't static.
No. So I don't know. I'm kind of hoping like as social science improves. I mean, look, there is some good news. You know, psychology hit a brick wall so embarrassingly that it really is, I don't know, like working hard to modernize it as an entire field, which is, I think, very cool. And so I'm kind of hoping that a lot of this like modernization, the way that they're thinking about how to communicate science, how to do it, like what it means and all that stuff, ends up, I don't know, like modernizing our thinking about a lot of these themes too, you know? I'm hoping.
Fingers crossed.
So now there's, I think there was a secret here too, but let's not risk it. Shaky.
Oh. Yeah.
Break noises.
I'm like still holding on to this thing. No! Right. Why am I holding this? Okay, whatever. What happened? Oh, I paused it.
I've calmed down.
We're almost there. So, let's see. This is one of the good bits of like all the, I guess, not so good, pretty bad psych research, is that it was so embarrassing in 2011 that as an entire field it's trying to modernize, and that's pretty good. The sad thing is how slow it is.
Sometimes you just have to hit rock bottom. You know, same goes for certain fields, and yeah.
But that's kind of the problem, though, isn't it? So 10 years ago, we recognized there was a problem, but we're also really, really slow to change. So what's actually changed so far?
That's just shitty.
That's just RNGesus hating.
Yeah. RNGesus is hating me. So, yeah, I don't know how interesting a lot of it is. A lot of it just has to do with how you test your hypotheses. A lot of it has to do with... So, a big part of it that I think really made a difference was that it's a lot, I guess, more useful for your career to publish papers than it is to, I don't know, like do the boring work of science. And so because it's a lot flashier to publish papers, it's a lot less flashy to try and do somebody else's work over again.
Yeah.
And this is a pillar, it's a cornerstone of science. Like, any finding that you have doesn't really count all that much until other people who are not in your lab, who are not in your research group, have, like, seen the same thing. Not that it's not useful that you've done it, but you shouldn't go around saying, I have found this thing, you know, it is definitely a thing, if you're the only one that has observed it.
That makes sense.
And so one of the things that happened in psychology is they had a bunch of what they call replications. You read a bunch of papers, you try and do the same thing again. And a bunch of them just didn't work out. And if you'd have stopped for like 2 seconds to think about it, it would have made perfect sense, because they were saying, you know, like, if you stand a certain way, I don't know, like, your testosterone and cortisol change. And if you put a red border around a picture, people will find you more attractive. And if a woman is ovulating, she wants a guy with a square jaw. And like all this stuff that just, I don't know, almost on like first listen, just doesn't seem to hold any water.
Yeah.
But there were hundreds of papers that seemed to show the same thing, and that's because they weren't replicating each other. And when people tried to make replications that didn't show the same findings, they just didn't get published, and like all this stupid crap. So just as like one example. Another one of the big things is like because of that, and I think like some biological fields or maybe medical fields not replicating, they started to build this infrastructure where you could share all the bits and pieces of your study. So not just the paper, but data and code and other materials that go along with it. All of this stuff, it's embarrassing how long it took, and that like psychology had to, I don't know, look so bad in order for people to start doing anything at all. But I guess the good news is that at least in those fields it's happening. Now that I'm in like machine learning and AI stuff, we're kind of hoping that something embarrassing happens there so that they will also start, I don't know, updating the way it is that they do stuff. And the other unfortunate thing about all this is it stays out of public conversation because it's kind of boring and unexciting to
it's
talk about.
very much in crowd, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I don't know, it kind of reminds me of what was so obvious to me as soon as I started university, was that within the field of media studies, it was all about branding, as in you wanted to have your own thing. You wanted to have this phenomenon or this observation that you could coin a phrase for. So every single paper you would read, there would be like this new ridiculous arbitrary like term in there, like this because everybody wanted to have like there's been obviously a lot of amazing ones like burden of representation or the male gaze or stuff like that. But then a lot of people are like, shit, I want to have my own male gaze moment or my own burden of representation moment. So like, especially with media and culture, which is what I studied, like every single time you read anything, you could just feel how badly all of these people were trying to sort of make it to the big time. They all wanted to have that one thing that would be on the magazine covers or in the newspaper. And so everybody was just more busy actually sort of marketing themselves than they were actually getting into the nitty-gritty of actual science. Just really, really depressing, to be fair, yeah.
We call it the toothbrush problem. Everybody needs one, but nobody wants to use anybody else's. You know, and...
Oh, that's perfect, actually.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like, the hard work of science, especially social science, is so complicated.
Yeah.
The hard work of it is you need to do the same thing over and over again. Like, the way your statistics works means that you have to do the same thing over and over again, and it's not sexy, but, like, it doesn't make for a flashy title or, like, a cool name of a thing that you can name, but that's how it's supposed to work. So again, because psychology did so poorly, even fields that have not like really hit the wall, have especially younger students that are eyeballing psychology and what it's done to try and improve the way that it does science, and that's encouraging. So yeah, science. So I'm hoping as things modernize, then like we'll get a better resolution, like a better understanding of how all these things work. Well, I can't do this without the cape, can I? Oh, I can. Nice. Now I'm just holding onto this thing every time I see it. I have no idea if it's useful or not, but
It's like your blankie.
it's my security springboard.
It's your spring boy.
It's your companion spring.
Nice.
Wow, meta.
There
Are
was
these
a
pipes- Should I also try going down every pipe? Yeah.
Yeah.
there was a Mario Maker level made by Ross from formerly the Game Grumps that is known for being ridiculously difficult, and it's called
Yeah.
Companion Spring.
There's that-
To do it, you must hang on to a spring the entire time.
Oh no, that's horrifying.
If you lose your spring, you've already lost. You
Oh
must-
my god. They've made a return. They're back.
What is that?
We call them flippos. I think they had a different name in the US.
What do you call them?
Pogs?
Pogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pogs are back.
Well, but they're their own brand. But nobody wants the weird mascot from Croaky Crisps. Like,
Are you sure you don't want that?
we had
Pog?
Looney Tunes and we had Pokemon.
Yeah.
the Pokemon
we used
ones-
The shiny Pokemon ones.
I have the transparent Pokemon ones. I have them complete. I know. I'm very cool.
Wow.
Very cool. Must have been the coolest kid in school.
Everybody wanted to hang out with me just because of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and only because of that.
That's how it works.
It was
Tell me how it works,
a
yeah.
very sad childhood.
Oh, you're not alone there. That's why we're all sitting here playing video games.
This is true.
I had a very hard time making friends when I was younger. Yeesh.
Yeah, same.
I was really scared you were gonna be like, oh, I had all the friends. Well, actually, I had way too many friends, but that's because I just sort of pathologically tried to befriend everyone. I succeeded in it, but I'm not sure if it made me happy.
I feel like
I
everybody
also-
goes to that phase, no?
I was gonna say, yeah, I also pathologically tried to befriend everyone, but
It's-
it didn't succeed.
Oh yeah, for me it's been the same for like ever. It's been like that forever, but I'm for me it's actually healthy to have less and less friends. That's my thing.
That's how I roll these days.
Yeah. I'm just so happy Pogs are back. This is like
It's the little things.
yeah.
Pogalicious. What's it like Kitu, you jerk? Oh, it's ghost like Kitu. Is that better or worse? Worse,
Oh,
probably.
man.
He doesn't even have something decent to offer. It's like,
I mean, he's a dick when he's alive, so just imagine what he's like when he's, an evil spirit who wants vengeance.
oh, I remember this.
I'm trying to remember now which show I was watching recently that involved the Lakitu cloud. So like, someone was talking crap about someone else, and they were like, "Oh, don't tell them I said this." And the other person was like, "I don't have to. They're right there." And they look up, and they're just in a Lakitu cloud sitting on top of them. They specifically call it a Lakitu cloud.
That's the way to do it.
Oh, Solar Opposites. That was it.
Solar
I remember that
opposites.
name actually, yeah.
Yeah, Solar Opposites, like Justin Roiland's new show.
Ah, yeah.
Newish show. It's not actually new anymore, but it's like the not Rick and Morty show.
I'm now just thinking that we should have like a crossover between the movie Nope and Mario, where, I mean, this is not a
Nope.
spoiler because this is in the trailers. Yeah, the new Jordan Peele movie,
Yep.
which as a
Is
trailer.
Jordan Peele doing horror?
Yeah,
Did I,
that's what
did I
he does.
somehow miss this phase in his career?
Get Out.
Get Out. Get Out with Jordan Peele.
Like the biggest. That was like the biggest.
Just miss Get Out?
Yeah.
Dude.
I
You gotta
don't.
watch Get Out. You gotta watch Get Out and
I don't
Us.
even.
Is this a horror film? Get Out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame though, because if you ask me, like Us and Nope are both like the most frustrating movies out there because it's like, God damn it, Jordan Peele, you're so good and so talented and so creative, and you keep messing up in the final act. And he desperately needs like a co-writer / producer.
I don't know. I didn't. What did he mess up in the final act of? Us?
Trying to turn it into an actual, like literal. He tried to actually explain how everything made sense. Like the movie worked as like an allegory. It worked as like a symbolical thing, like as a metaphor. and then it's like, no, they're all actual people, and there's millions of them everywhere throughout the, and it just doesn't work at all. Like this, as soon as the movie is like, no, this is an actual literal thing that's going on, the plot doesn't make any sense anymore. And it just worked when it was more, just trying to sort of make, when it was trying to just make a point.
He made midichlorians.
Yeah, basically. And it just doesn't make any sense. It was really weird, and it's just such a shame because the movie worked when it was keeping things, somewhat vague, and just it was just really weird and creepy and different and awesome. And then it just kind of went off the rails for me.
I felt that way about the Doom video games. Like, you just have random creatures coming out of hell, and they're ugly and disgusting, and everything looks like meat, and you're shooting them for some reason. You really don't need to go any further than that. The second they started, like, giving these mindless things like names and stuff like that, or, like names and backstories, it was kind of like, I don't know. It took away from it rather than add, I felt. I preferred it when it was just unexplained.
Yeah.
And you had this to contend with.
And that's what I have with Us, because Us is all about, like, these sort of doppelgangers, like these sort of evil alter egos, basically, of the main characters. And that's just really disturbing and eerie. And it's just, the movie uses it to criticize a lot of, like, cultural, things in general. And it's just, that works. And then the movie basically goes and it's like, but they're real, and they're out there for everyone. There's millions, and they've been in these locations. And it's like, why are you trying to explain this? I'm like, it's kind of like if you were watching Twin Peaks or Mulholland Drive, and then having this scene where they try and explain every single thing literally. Like, that doesn't work for something that's that sort of, I don't know. And that's what I had with, funnily enough, I had the sort of opposite with Nope, where I think the actual screenplay does actually work. Like, the actual narrative still makes sense to me till the end, but they just completely mess up the tone and delivery of everything in the final act.
I didn't watch Nope yet.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And that's because Jordan Peele's a really talented filmmaker, and he makes awesome stuff. And I mean, Us was, to me, so disappointing in that sense, because Us was a big step up, if you ask me, when it came to, like, the art direction and like, sound design.
Look, I liked Get Out, but I really enjoyed Us.
Yeah. Like,
and
Us.
Like, the truth is, though, like, now that I'm thinking back on it, I don't even recall the ending sequence you're describing. I recall the other moments in the movie that I
because those, like, the first 2/3 of the movie, I was like, oh my god, he's done it. He's just made a fucking follow-up that's even better. Because it looks amazing, and the performances are fucking...
Oh my god, Lupita Nyong'o.
Like,
Holy
perfect.
Cow. Holy
and, like, the soundtrack, and, like, everything is perfect. And to me, it's just such a shame that he just doesn't have, like, a decent co-writer. He, honestly, if you ask me, he needs someone to rein him in from time to time. And the same with Nope. It's just, like, he just goes off the rails, and, like... It's okay, you don't have to be the only name on screen when there's written, produced, and directed by. You don't have to do everything on your own. And And it's not just me thinking that, as in, we've seen that ever since Get Out. Like, Us was way more divisive, but then also he had that horrible Twilight Zone stint. He did some other stuff, like, none of his stuff has been as well received as Get Out. But it's still creative and ambitious as fuck. Like, even with all of this, what I'm saying, like, as soon as there's a new Jordan Peele movie, I'm there. Like, he's a really one-of-a-kind filmmaker, and he has a vision, and does he make, if you ask me, mistakes? Yeah. But I'd rather have a creative, ambitious person like Jordan Peele kind of fuck up a movie like that than have, like, a safe bet, 150 million budget film. Like... At least it's weird and different and creative and cool and...
I mean, his comedy was already that.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly the thing that I think he's bringing to his movies, is that when you look up his interviews about how it is he comes up with concepts for things like Us, the answer is, like, he takes a kind of movie he's already familiar with, like a genre kind of movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Us was doppelgangers, Get Out was a traditional kind of psychological horror...
Yeah. Nope
is the disaster movie, right?
Yeah.
And then he takes that concept in the same way that, like, in the comedy bits, they were refining what made this situation funny, and then just taking that to 11. in these movies, he's figuring out what tropes in this genre make it entertaining to watch, and then he takes those up to 11.
Nope is really good in that on that front actually.
Yeah, like, and I think that makes it amazing in so many ways. Cause like, it's exactly what it is you want that movie to be in the end, right? Except I guess for some issues in the final acts, which again, like I wish I could comment on it. I really don't even recall it from us, which I think actually makes your point, doesn't it? Because I really liked the movie. I don't recall what you're referring to in the ending. I only remember one part of the ending.
At the end, at the end, it's basically like, this is they work as this sort of ominous force, as this like eerie, weird, like, what are they? Are they like a mirror? Are they like sort of commentary on this or that? Are they like this sort of manifestation of, like, it works when it's left somewhat vague, because that's scarier in this case, not because vague is better. A lot of times an explanation does work.
But it is true that, like, over-explanation is the death of horror, right?
Yeah.
In any narrative format, it's not just film.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, fear of the unknown is one of the most powerful and motivating fears.
Just imagine a ghost story where you're like, so what happens when someone dies is that the energy that is a part of their body leaves and enters this specific realm, where it then gets to decide what kind of spirit, like, that doesn't fucking scare you.
Here's
That's
an
just,
equation so you can compute it yourself.
Yeah, it's just...
Exactly, right? Once you know what you're dealing with, you know how to deal with it, which is why things like vampires and zombies are no longer scary, even in horror films, right?
I had the same vibe with Star Trek and the Borg.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, the Borg have been overused and overexplained like crazy.
And like there was that movie where Picard, like...
Oh, yeah.
So the whole point of the Borg that was, like, so unsettling, I think, to me when I first saw it as a kid, was the fact that what did
he turn into again?
Locutus.
Thank you.
Locutus of Borg.
Locutus of Borg.
Yeah.
But then they gave, like, the Borg, like, another face. Like, there's a Queen Borg.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just stopped being scary. The idea that it was a collective unconscious.
Yeah.
And that it was attempting to be, like, perfectly efficient.
This is the only thing. This is the only thing I'm gonna say about Nope. That this kind of reminds me exactly of that, where they over-explain and show way too much of the main threat, and that's such a shame, because honestly, this is one of those cases where, if you ask me, Nope, if that movie would not change a single thing and seriously just end 20, 25, 30 minutes earlier, it would be a better movie. Like, seriously, like, there are several moments where I'm like, this could be the perfect ending to this movie and it would work. Where you're left with, like, this, that's so weird and unsettling and threatening and what the fuck. And Nope then just keeps going. And that's my big issue with Jordan Peele, where I'm like, he needs someone to be like, yo, Jordan, it's good like this. It works. We're done here. It's perfect. He just can't help himself to sort of keep going or something. It's, yeah. Also, I'm curious. I mean, you're gonna have to watch it ASAP, Kali, especially. I'm curious what because one of the things I also thought was really annoying, and again showed me that he needs someone to rein him in. Like, at one point, there's like, Nope has this one character that's on screen for quite a bit, and they actually give this character some sort of flashback and a backstory. And you're like, oh, this is interesting, and this is gonna, tie into some other aspects of the movie. And oh, damn, I can see how this character acts as like a critique of this and that. Then you lose the character; it just disappears from the movie, and then a different character is introduced that very much seems to have the exact same function, like the exact same critique, where it's like, this character serves to, be a commentary of this and that in modern day culture. And then, I'm not kidding you, that character is on screen way less than the first one. That character disappears. And there's a third character introduced that's on screen for even, like that's on screen even way less. And serves as the exact same thing. And it's again like, oh, look, it's a commentary of, and it's so weird and scattered. Where you're like, okay, so you've just introduced 3 characters that all serve the same sort of purpose, and as the movie goes on, they just do a worse and worse job of it, and it's just, it feels really weird and forced, and it's just, yeah.
It sounds very uncomfortable to watch.
it's a really fun movie, and it's a really cool, weird, own kind of thing, and I would seriously recommend it to you. But there are issues, and it's easier to pick out issues with a movie that has a lot of good stuff in it. When a movie is bad, it's just it's a shitty movie.
Yeah, you just write it off, right?
Yeah, but
it's
it's
just
a good movie. It
yeah.
bothers you that much more. Yeah.
It's just like with food, like, oh my god, I can't even continue eating this, what the fuck? Like, that's easy, but when something's really good, it's easier to be like, oh man, if you would just add in a bit more of this, or just take out this, then it's perfect. Like, that's...
You know what I really felt that way about? What was the M. Night... I think it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie. And it was like, it had an alien theme, but it never showed you the aliens. Signs.
Yeah.
I actually... So while you're describing all these things, I actually felt very similar about Signs. Like, if you had just left it alone, you didn't need to show me the alien.
Yeah.
You didn't need the
tell us
baseball
they
scene.
were, weak to water.
The water thing
yeah.
was just...
Yeah.
But chose to come to this planet. And I think Nostalgia Critic also pointed out that not only that, they're apparently incapable of opening a door.
Oh,
Yeah, that too. Like, gangsta, come on.
He was like, they were defeated by their one weakness, doors. And like, it's true, like, once you see that the alien is person-shaped, it's hilarious that it can't open a door, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was better when it was unexplained. It's the
So-
same thing with
Yeah.
Old, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Old would have been better if they just effing left it.
Yeah.
So can you imagine if that movie just, like, ends... Yeah, I remember my friend Guy actually mentioning this to me way back when, but he was like, if the movie had just ended, when they make the decision to walk up the stairs, you know what I mean? That's where it ends.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like this, it would have been much stronger, but you over-explain something.
Yeah.
And again, fear of the unknown is what makes it interesting, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love
Fear of
about the
unknown is
ending.
most powerful one.
I love that It Follows has a third act where it goes a bit too much Home Alone-y, and I'm just like, ooh, why would you go there? But then afterwards, it still has like an ending that actually does make pretty clear that you don't know, and it is not a given that we've rid ourselves of the monster, and we don't know how it operates really. Like,
Which
it,
movie?
It Follows.
Oh, okay.
Like my most favorite horror film ever.
That's the one where every time like you sleep with someone, it follows them until it
Yeah.
kills them, then it comes after you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's a sexually transmitted horror monster.
Yeah.
And it just
That's
keeps coming
exactly
back
what I
to
was
you.
thinking.
So you're gonna want to have sex with someone, and also have that person have sex with someone else as soon as possible, and then that person with someone else as soon as possible, etc., etc.
And it apparently goes at a walking pace. This is the part
Yeah.
that the
It's
the
so
sex
scary.
thing I thought was weird.
Yeah.
But
The walking is so
walking pace,
disturbing.
right? The idea of pursuit predation.
It just
is
keeps
the
headed-
genuinely most frightening
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Just keeps heading for you in a straight direction. Like the shortest distance is what it always has, basically, as like it's sort of modus operandi. So it's always just going for you in a straight line at like a walking pace, and it can look like anything. It can look like a complete stranger. It can look like your worst nightmare. It can look like your parents, like your partner.
Yeesh.
And it's just so disturbing and creepy and unsettling. It's amazing.
Yeah, so like that kind of thing is more fascinating because it's an exploration of a primal fear, pursuit
Yeah.
predation, but without enough explanation to make it something you actually understand how to deal with.
Yeah. And I love that the movie never gets into like, where did it come from? How does it exist?
Right.
How does it? It's all about just that feeling of dread, of it being inescapable. Like it's so good.
Sounds amazing.
And the soundtrack is like it's not nothing should be allowed to go that hard. It's from Disaster Piece, so it's like this 8-bit. It's like this chiptune-y. It's not chiptune, but it's like very 80s synth heavy and really dark and really cool and really unsettling. It's the best.
Disaster Piece.
Yeah.
It made me think of the Slipknot song. But it's a chiptune horror soundtrack?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like really synthy and just
Yeah, I'm so curious actually.
the soundtrack is man.
But yeah, like that's the thing. That kind of movie works well because it's unexplained. I
Yeah.
feel the same way about movies about fantasy, right? There comes a point when you really shouldn't be trying to explain any further, or you get
Yeah.
into midichlorian territory. right?
Yeah.
This is my big complaint about Brandon Sanderson. As much as I like the way he sets up stories, you know, the way that he, in all of his stories, has a tendency to, like, set up the pins and then knock them down in a really satisfying way, and that's great. The one thing that I hate is that he cannot leave well enough alone. There is never a point when he's like, and then this is the magic of my world and this is it. And it just, you know, allow it to be consistent, but don't explain it. He never does that. He instead explains in great, great detail. You know, so you end up reading for 10 pages that, well, this works because the resonance from this crystal works with the resonance from this crystal. And so you see, in this world, and in the physics of this world, this thing happens and this thing happens, and then because of that, these things happen. And then you're just reading this just entire system that he's come up with. I'm like, I'm glad you have an idea of how it works, but I
That's
don't
like
need to
hard
know.
sci-fi, but applied to fantasy. That's
Exactly.
so... Wow, okay.
Yeah, right. And it's like, dude, I don't need to know. You can just tell me it's magic. It's fine. We're dealing with fucking magic Jedi here. It's okay. You can just be magical. It's fine. They summon armor from nothing. It's cool.
Yeah, I think the idea of partial explanations, like, that's more like reality.
Yeah, like, I feel like consistency is important, but
Yeah. It
has to be
explanation is not,
yeah.
right? And this is the difference. You don't want to get into Green Rocks territory where, like, the magic thing does whatever it is you want the magic thing to do. But you also don't actually need to explain it.